Scottsdale Unified School District set to vote on closing Pima Elementary and Echo Canyon School. In fact, they did vote on it. Excuse me. They talked about dwindling enrollment and rising costs, and now that leaves families just wondering what's next, where do we go, how do we adjust? And is he ready to go? Joining us right now is the superintendent for Scottsdale School District, Scott Menzel. And Scott, I know this has been a tough road for you here. Pamela, I know, has been intimately familiar with everything that's been going on as well.
Yeah. And my question for you, sir, is, we got a lot of families that feel blindsided and shaken by the decision to close Pima Elementary and Echo Canyon. In the simplest terms, can you explain how we got here and why these closures are necessary now?
Sure. So simplest terms are that for the past 15 years, Scottsdale Unified School District has been declining in enrollment. We're down more than 6,000 students. In that same 15-year period, only one elementary school is no longer in operation, but 6,000 students would fill 10 elementary schools of 600. Echo Canyon and Pima both had fewer than 300 students this past year. They've been declining in enrollment for some time. Post-COVID, we've been working to support all of our schools to grow our enrollment, but Pima and Echo Canyon in particular really struggled to recover and rebound after the enrollment loss after the COVID pandemic. And so as we entered this school year, we knew that we had to make some difficult choices with respect to our structural budget deficit. And those were the first two schools based on their enrollment to be considered for closure.
So what are the reasons that we've got enrollment down so far? 6,000 students seems extraordinary to me. Do you have ideas as to why you have 6,000 fewer students now than you did before?
So we have demographic shifts, right? We've got a declining birth rate in the state of Arizona. The cost of housing in Scottsdale is expensive, and so it's prohibitive for some young families to live in Scottsdale. During that same period of time, we've had a proliferation of choice and charters and the universal voucher expansion. All of those things contribute to choices that parents can make. In 2010, we had 71% of the students who lived in our boundaries attended Scottsdale Unified. This past year, 56% are attending Scottsdale Unified. 25% of our enrollment are neighboring district students that choose Scottsdale Unified. And so in this open choice and charter environment, you've got a lot of movement, but the birth rate decline is significant. If we captured 71% like we did in 2010, we'd still be down more than 3,000 students, which would fill 5 elementary schools. So the demographics itself is a big part of why we need to reduce the number of buildings we have, just because we have fewer school-aged children.
So you have fewer school-aged children. You're looking to reduce the buildings. So what will the savings from these closures actually go towards, and how will your community see these benefits?
So there are a couple of things, right? Between the two buildings, we're looking at about $2.5 million in projected savings. And we have a phase 1 and phase 2 because we think we need to move from 29 to 25 buildings by the 27 and 28 school year. So those savings help address our structural budget deficit. We're looking at $7.9 to $9 million that we have to identify. Part of it is tied to $5 million worth of positions that have been paid for out of cash accounts that at one time were robust, but now have no funding. And so those have to be paid for. Those positions have to be paid for out of M&O. School funding is complicated. I wish I could make it simpler, but it's not. But we have to cover those costs. That's the biggest part of the structural deficit. The other $3.3 million is tied to our average loss of students each year. And so we have to adjust our budget based on fewer students every year because our budget's driven by the number of students we have. So the combination between having to move cash accounts to M&O and the decline in revenue based on fewer students requires these kinds of difficult decisions to be made.
And a question for you, because I know Scottsdale is not the only district facing this, but as you talk about the average loss of students that you are seeing year over year with enrollment declining across the district, of which you've said, it's been going on for several years now, what's the long-term plan? If I'm a parent sitting in your district, I want to know, if I'm staying here, what's the plan? Is my school next?
So that's a really important question, Pamela. And I'd say full and thriving schools is the long-term plan. If you look across Scottsdale Unified School District, We offer a variety of programs from dual language immersion in both Mandarin and Spanish to international baccalaureate programming, primary years through the diploma program. We offer a traditional program at Cheyenne Traditional, which is has wait lists for people to get into it. So we have a math and science academy at Mojave Middle School and Saguaro High School. We've got compelling programs, but if you have small schools that are under enrolled, you're spending money to keep those open, and that's money you can't pay your people. It's money you can't put into new and innovative programming to attract more families to the district. So the goal is to right size our footprint. So to increase our impact, we need to reduce our footprint. That's why we're proposing to go from 29 to 25 so that we can stabilize the enrollment decline and over time, hopefully capture back more of that market share.
Scott Menzel is the superintendent of Scottsdale School District, and we have Pima Elementary School, Echo Canyon School voted yesterday to close those two. Are there two more then that are on the chopping block? You said you wanted to go from 29 to 25?
So we've identified in phase 2 that we have a number of schools that are at or around 400 in terms of their enrollment. And so they'll be part of an intentional conversation starting after the first of the year. There are multiple scenarios in terms of how we could merge or combine or move. But essentially, we're looking to have 2 fewer schools in 27-28 so that we're down to 25 schools serving our just under 20,000 students when we get to the 27-28 school year.
Mr. Menzel, if I can go back to you mentioned the goal is a full and thriving district. That hasn't worked to maintain the population right now, to maintain the enrollment right now. What makes us believe that the full and thriving plan is going to be sufficient going forward? If 25 is the right number now, why is 25 going to be the right number come the year 2032?
So when we talk about full and thriving schools, we're talking about having schools that have sufficient enrollment to offer the breadth and depth of educational programs that attract families to those schools. As one of my board members uses as an analogy, if you fill the footprint center, you're going to have a very loud, raucous crowd. But if you take that same crowd and you put it in State Farm Stadium, it's going to feel very, very small and insignificant because the size of the stadium is too large. And so the goal is to ensure that all of our campuses that are open are providing the full breadth and depth of educational experiences that students deserve and that our families want and need. At the end of the day, there's no guarantee what's going to happen with the birth rate, choice, and charter environment. But what we know is that we cannot responsibly continue to spend money in under-enrolled schools that detract from our ability to invest in our people and to provide the kind of programming for the future that our families want and need.
Right now, we are talking to Scottsdale Unified School District Superintendent Dr. Menzel. And one last question for you here, sir. Your board decided yesterday to close 2 schools. You've just spoken to us that there are a couple other schools that might be on, the table in the next few years. You're not the only district that is dealing with this as well. We have a lot of families listening right now. How do you talk to those parents? What do they say to those kids that have this uncertainty? We talked about familiarity, right? Just recently here, Chris, who have all this uncertainty about one of the most important things, which is their child's education. So whether you're listening right now because you go to Scottsdale or you're in Chandler or Gilbert or somewhere on the west side, what do you say to those families that are starting to question the trust of the public education system because they don't know where their kids are going to be going to school?
So I would say a couple of things. One, we've committed to providing concierge level service to the families at Pima and Echo Canyon. We'll have identified a point of contact for every family. We'll have outreach before we break in December 19th for the 2-week winter break. We are going to be available to support the needs of kids and families in terms of exploring what's the next best school option for their children. What are their particular needs? If it's a student with an IEP, they'll have particular questions. It may be an English language learner. We have a team of people ready to provide support, but every family will have a designated point of contact. We believe it's really important to understand what the family's preferences are, what they need and want, and how we can match them with the right school in Scottsdale Unified School District. For the families in phase 2, we're going to be having many community meetings and conversations about the options that are available. We've been talking about the nature of our structural budget deficit. People don't get inspired by that budgetary conversation, but I know that it's important from a leadership perspective to be responsible stewards of taxpayer resources. If we want our community to continue to invest in the public education system, we have to show that we're not going to continue to put money into underutilized facilities. We're going to put money into people who are improving educational outcomes for kids. And that's our priority in Scottsdale. And we can't do that if we're spending on excess capacity. We can do that if we right size our footprint. That's the goal for the long term.
Superintendent, Scottsdale School District, Scott Menzel, thank you so much, Superintendent Menzel. It's an honor having you on, and I hope that you'll join us again as some more of these tough decisions have to be made and as the planning process goes on as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe, and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.